Hi there. Have you ever thought that in just the last 10 years you've gone from there to there? And you think that you've traveled a long way. But wait for it. Let's have a look at how far you're going to go in the next 10 years. You have just completed the first block of your lifespan. 0 to 23, the area of your life where you are being educated, and most are dependent on somebody else. But now we go off into the big bad world and we get into that next phase of our life, getting started, 23 to 40. That's where we make all the mistakes. And that affects the comfortable stage of our life, 40 to 60, when we should be cashing in. And that affects your pension days when you're supposed to be enjoying yourself. And ultimately, it may even affect how much you leave to your kids. Yes, the big mistakes can come in the first couple of years post-graduation. That's what this presentation is about. Because in the next few years, you are trying to go from being a graduate to buying your first car, to blowing your first credit card limits out of the window and landing in a debt trap, to buying your first house, married, and then children, jobs, falling ill, retrenchment possibilities. 1 in 3 will get divorced, and those that make it will have to provide for their retirement, a period of 20 years when they will have to live off their own savings. That's a huge ask. And you are doing this all in the context of the new South Africa. Let's have a look at what the people of South Africa look like. There are 50 million of us. 1.4 million are disabled. That's nearly 3%. Then there are 2 million AIDS orphans. That's 4%. 10 million children live on child grants. 20%. 8 million children are fortunate enough not to need life support. Then there are 2.5 million pensioners who need a government subsidy to just live. Then there are 4 million unemployed, and then there are 10 million people who are economically inactive. That accounts for 75% of the population, and as a graduate you will not be one of them. You are hoping to live in the last quarter. In fact, you're trying to do even better than that, because of the 12 million South Africans that have jobs, 9 million of them are employed but live below the tax threshold, earning less than 5,000 rands per month. The graduate is aspiring to live in the next block, which is the 3.3 million South Africans who earn between 50 and 500,000 rands per annum. Or maybe you might just be lucky enough to be one of those fat cats in South Africa. There are actually very few of these oaks. Only 150,000 earn more than 500,000 rands per annum. So, as a graduate, you will be living as a tiny minority amongst a huge majority of people who have little or nothing. Thus, money is targeted. Money is targeted in every way, whether it is somebody trying to get your wallet or your cell phone, or a stop order off your salary, or the receiver of revenue trying to take your tax. You've got money, and the world is after it. Let's examine a concept. Accountants look at it. It's the one little formula that they study for 4 years. A equals L plus C. In short, assets equals liabilities and capital. And that's a formula that is supposed to follow all accountants through for the rest of their lives. Let's have a look at it in operation and ask, on the left-hand side of a T account, what is your greatest asset? Some can say it's their car, some will say it's their kids. I say your greatest asset is your brain, because your brain is what makes the whole thing work. And this is where we say, well, what is the value of a brain? And when we ask graduates, how many of you are millionaires? Very few put their hands up. But watch this. If on graduating from university at age 23, you have increased your income earning potential on average by 25,000 rands per month, growing from age 23 to your retirement age of 70, increasing with inflation at 12%, If we had to go out there and buy an investment to produce a return equivalent to the income earning capacity of a graduate, we would have to put down cash of 10.1 million rand. Bottom line, once you are a graduate, you're a millionaire. The biggest problem is how easy it is to lose it all. So, we've seen an asset. Now let's have a look at how easy it is to rack up liabilities. Let's take your first house. The average price of a house in South Africa today is in the region of about R1 million. And because interest rates are so low, the bond payment on R1 million is around about 8,000 Rand per month. And when one looks at that on the face of it, we say, well, the asset, the house, is equal to the liability, the loan that you will take to buy the house. But no. When we look at a house today, we are saying, hang on, when you buy a house, you become something else. You become a person who now has to pay water and light, insurance, servants, second home maybe, all of that coming out of your salary. And if we take that obligation over a period of 20 years, we find that the obligation in buying a house is far more than the asset value of the house. In this case, the house cost R1 million, but the obligation was to pay 3.4 million Rand. That's quite frightening. So starting off, you may have a 10 million Rand value asset, but there's a 3.5 million Rand liability to go against it. Let's try another one. Some say that their greatest assets are their children. What's it going to cost to have a child? Well, we might take it and say, having a child doesn't cost anything. We don't go out and buy them, but my goodness, it can be a liability. Let's presume that on a child, it is going to cost 5,000 rands per month starting off for medical, insurance, clothing and safety. If we put that together, the first 6 years are going to cost the equivalent of 353,000 Rand. And then the next 6 years, 7 to 12, could cost another 700,000. And you're still not finished. Up to 18, that will be another 800,000, and that's before they even get to university. Having a child today, there's no doubt about it, that is a liability of more than R1 million in commitments for the future. We're not saying that you shouldn't do it. We're just saying you should be aware of what it's going to cost. And we haven't had any fun yet. We haven't bought cars, toys, had a big lifestyle, looked after our parents, our spouses, our kids. The big problem with all of these things is going to be that sooner or later you are going to land up in a debt trap. You're going to blow your credit cards, overextend yourself, and for a while that is going to be financially uncomfortable. Some people say, oh well, that's the bank's problem. But that's brave talk. Because the reality of it is that debt trap is one of the principal causes of the so-called social diseases. These are called the dreaded Ds. Divorce, drugs, drink, down and out depression. All those horror stories that you look at in reality television. In one or other way, they can be traced directly back to debt trap. And this is why it is so important not to get yourself caught up in the dreaded Ds in the first couple of years following graduation, because it basically destroys everything that you have achieved.